session. One yes. Starts the regular Scituate School Committee meeting for May 9th, 2022. The Scituate School Committee is committed to providing an environment to respect during meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcomed and respected. We ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards and support and respect our community. This is our second in-person meeting. It's also being available through Zoom and will be available on the Scituate TV YouTube page after the meeting. Community members can also email me at mlong@cit.org with any questions or comments after the meeting. So moving on in our agenda, the next item is celebrating student learning. So turn it over to Mr. Scituate.
Hi, friends. Very nice to see you. I'm just going to share my screen at this time, and I am very excited to remember how to Zoom, first of all, which is great, but also to have this time to talk with you, and we're going to be talking. Okay. Just to have this time to be able to talk with you about our partnership with Mass Insight, which we started this year. I do have a few folks, some of whom are able to make it live and in person, some who are hopefully going to be able to join us through Zoom. And I just want to introduce them before I get too much further. First of all, I'd like to introduce Kathy Hall, a phenomenal teacher here at Scituate High School, has been really involved with AP Lang, especially in addition to journalism and some other classes, excuse me. And as we go throughout, I'm hoping a couple of members from Mass Insights that they'd be able to join us. We're just trying to work through some technical issues, and if they can join us, great. If not, they're going to be watching this and they'll be able to answer any questions that people do have here. I may have a student, but we will see. We'll get a backup for that though, so good to go. Having said that, folks, what I'd like to do is just to go through a few questions, just to answer, as you can see here, just to make sure that everybody's clear with what AP looks like in ELA here at SHS. A little bit of background on Mass Insight, talking a little bit about how Mass Insight has helped teachers, how it helps students, but then really the big questions, which are so what and what next, right? And that's what we're looking to get into for here. So, the brief overview for ELA AP courses. As you can see, we offer two of them. AP Language and Composition, grade 11. That's focused on analyzing rhetoric, crafting arguments. AP Literature is offered in grade 12, and that's that more focused on the literary analysis, the really deep stuff, getting diction, word choice, a lot of the figurative language, and really how authors craft language to develop and create long-standing literature. These courses build up to the exams. They are timed, the exams, as you may or may not know, 3 to 3.25 hours. They have multiple choice options. They have 3 free response questions. Those are generally essays that they would write. Each exam can earn a total of 5 points. 3 or above is often enough to count for college credit. Okay, so 3, 4, or 5 generally is considered what's called a qualifying score. Okay. And at this point, oh, good. At this point, I just want to take a quick look to see if Patty or Sally are with us.
I'm here.
Oh, great. Thank you, Sally. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, sure. And then if you'd like me to go through the slides, I'd be happy to do that for you.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to see some Scituate friends. I'm Sally Guadagno, and I am the Managing Director of the Mass Insight's AP STEM and English Support Program. I started at Mass Insight 11 years ago as their English Content Director, and now I am overseeing the whole program. And it's been a pleasure this year to work with the administrators and the staff at Scituate High School. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have about our partnership. So go right ahead, John.
All right, thank you, Sally. And just to continue on with this, and excuse me, feel free to add anything that I missed, Sally, as well for this here. But Mass Insight is an organization. They partner with states, districts, schools, and communities, and their focus is to implement customized strategies, right? And that's an important element of what they offer here. And as you can see, this is taken directly from their website. They build capacity to advance equity and opportunity in K through 12 education. They are based in Boston, but they do have a nationwide reach. They have over 20 years of experience. And the main thing that I'd like to talk about in just a few moments is the mock exams, right? These are practice exams and what that looks like and how helpful that has been. Before I advance those, Sally, is there anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, our particular mission is to help schools, and Scituate already has an open and thriving AP program. And what we like to do with our school partners is to assist them as they grow it out even further and dig deeper into their population so that the AP classes reflect the demographic of the building. So we like to think about success in AP as a student who does well in the course, gets a great course grade, builds confidence to be really college ready, and getting those qualifying scores is a bonus. But we really value schools that are digging into their population to find the students with potential and encouraging them and providing the supports. In addition to the mock exams, we also provide student study sessions that are instructional twice a year. And we also have teacher professional development. And we do really also include some exam fee subsidies for low-income students who are taking these exams.
Thanks, Sally. So just to get into a little bit, talk a little bit about the impact on students. This is an image of some of our own students taking the mock exam way back when. This was the one in February. What I'd like to do in a moment, though, is just to share some of the sample reports that are produced. And there's a lot of reports. There's a lot of data that you can really dig into that Mass Insight provides from the mock exams. And it appears that our student is not here, which is A-okay because I have a backup. I also want to make a plug, though, for the Situation, our student newspaper. They have a nice write-up about the experience of the mock exams, and that link's available to you all as well. So the first report that I'd like to share is this, and for folks who are live in the room, don't worry, you can't see the specific details. It's I'll talk about it in general terms. This is a student report where it gives an AP score. And the general idea is that you get a certain number of points for your multiple choice. You get a certain number of points for each of your free response questions. That gives you a total composite score. And then you can see there's a small chart there where that essentially converts it to the equivalent of an AP score, right? So in this case, this is a student who earned a composite score of 85 points, which translates to a 5 on the AP exam, right? And so this is the type of report that Mass Insight provides. Mass Insight, they grade all of everything, which is a huge element for this. And these are some of the reports that are generated. So this is one example of a student report that teachers would have access to. And again, I won't get into the very small print here, but I do want to just share that each student can get feedback on each free response question. And that has a breakdown for it's a total of 6 points for each one, and it explains how what they earned for each different section: thesis, evidence and commentary, as well as sophistication. But it also offers comments, right? Specific comments about what was done well and what could be improved. And those are some important things to keep in mind. And that feedback, as you can imagine, can be invaluable for students and for teachers as they get ready to move forward with preparing for the exam. And we will, rather than going to our student here, what I will do is actually just switch gears to some student testimonials that I was able to get from our AP Lit teacher, and just give me a moment to display this. Here we go. And just a couple of quotes, talking about how they felt really prepared. Talking about the strategies, to me, that was a really important element that came out of this, is that it wasn't just, okay, I have the practice, I have the confidence. There were concrete strategies that they took, which was great. Doing Q1, Q2, and Q3 for homework, felt that they were prepared Timing was a big factor that a lot of students talked about, just having that timed experience. And again, 3 hours can both feel very long, but also very quick, and just being able to balance those things out. This larger quote, I won't get into all of that other than to say that this is a student who felt that every book that they studied in class was a good fit for the Q3. And just a lot of the different things, whether it's from the Scarlet Letter to Frankenstein to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, just feeling that they had a lot of preparation, that there was a lot that they could pull from. And one thing that was interesting for some feedback was that there were several students who wished that there were more opportunities to take the mock exams rather than just a single day that we did that. Okay. So getting back to our, getting back to the presentation, I do want to start talking a little bit now about the teacher side of things. And for that, it's important to recognize the context. Teachers have done practice exams for a long time. They use released items to do this. But as you can imagine, bell schedule is limiting, right? You only have about an hour rather than a 3-hour chunk. And so to split it over a few classes, it doesn't feel authentic, right? It just feels kind of broken up. And again, teachers should be focusing on teaching, right? On the instructing. It takes a lot of time to do the assessment. So the fact that we can give a full uninterrupted mock exam and teachers don't have to spend that time grading is just a win-win overall, where the kids get feedback and other folks get feedback. I want to show a couple of the teacher reports, and then I'll welcome Ms. Hall up here. This is a sample report where for a class, I took out the names as well as the student names. But again, just for kids who take a test, you get your multiple choice score, each one for the free responses, composite score, potential AP grade. And so you just get that data at the class level, right? So that can help you identify what are some areas of strength, what are some areas where things can get improved. Free response analysis is down at the bottom for the class rather than just the individual student. This is like an 8-page report, just a very brief sample for this. It just is an item analysis for the multiple choice. What percentage of students chose which answer, which ones were distractors, if those were chosen. And so again, just a really nice detailed analysis of what students were doing. And while data and analysis is important, human beings are also important. So at this point, I'd like to welcome one of the most human beings I know. Come on.
Thank you. I'm an English teacher, so I was trying to figure out a way to present this in a metaphor. And I will say this is the metaphor I came up with. I teach juniors AP Language and Composition. When they come in September, one of the very first activities that we do as a class is they bring up their College Board account. They've all taken the PSATs as sophomores, compliments of Scituate Public Schools. And I show them this magical button where they can take their PSAT scores and they are tied to Khan Academy SAT prep. And it's a personalized preparation that they can engage in all year long. And when you see their eyes light up, that they may possibly not need a $500 tutor, that they can do this on their own. It's very empowering for students. And so my metaphor is Mass Insight has been my Khan Academy because I didn't know it existed. When it was introduced to us this year, I was sort of like, where has this been all my life, right? It has been a tremendous support for both myself and my students. It's more than a week in St. Johnsbury or a workshop in October, a YouTube video here or there. It is an ongoing support. I've engaged in many discussions with Sally and Julie Alexander and other people who are part of Mass Insight schools. My students have utilized all the different workshops. I've utilized the workshops. It has just been a game changer. And I want to say, especially this year, it was very much appreciated because as you've heard, I'm sure, many students are struggling. And it's that emotional that feeling of maybe not having the kind of control that they want. And to be perfectly honest, having this support from Mass Insight, I think has given me, maybe more of a feeling of control. And I have to believe that that's been transferred on to the students. And I know they've appreciated this kind of support. So I just want to say thank you. And again, I've been teaching AP. This was my 8th year. It was a significant game changer for me. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And to that point, as Kathy mentioned, in terms of where this goes and what this means and how where it ultimately goes to is what I would like to get into next. And this has to do with the so what. Talking about data, right? There's the forest, there's the trees, and there's the weeds. I hope we have hit that balance so that we're not going to get too deep in the weeds. So what I want to talk about though and share first of all is how our students did on the mock exam, okay? N is for the number of students that took it, and then the 3+ column is for the percentage of students that got a 3, 4, or 5 on the mock exam. So for example, you see with Lang, 82 students took it, 61% of those students got a 3, 4, or 5. Lit, we had fewer students, which is common for our school and for the country. 38 students took it, 52.6 got a 3, 4, or 5. Now, we need a little bit of context for that. So what I'd like to do is just to share with you, excuse me, as I click on it the correct way this time, just to talk about how students did in last year's actual exam, right? So again, for Scituate, in terms of the percent that got 3, 4, and 5, for Lang, 130 students took it, 64.6% earned a qualifying score. For Lit, the numbers are, as you can see here, 59 students, 61%. Now, one of the important pieces of context to keep in mind with this is that when our students took the mock exam, they were only halfway through the course. Okay, so just to be mindful of that. That's one of the important differences there. Where obviously when they took the exam last year, that was the entire course. And just to give the context some context, when we look at the AP exam scores in terms of the national numbers for 3, 4s, and 5s, yes, 476,000 took Lang, but 57%, only 57% across the country got a qualifying score for Lang, where last year 64.6% got a qualifying score. And then for Lit, 44% got a qualifying score nationally last year. So just think those numbers are important context to keep in mind for that, right? So this is where the mock exam puts us. This is where it gives us everything for now, all right? And then just as I get ready to wrap it all up here, the what next, right? For students, AP Lit exam was May 4th, and they're relieved, I'm sure, to be done with that. We heard some of their feedback. AP Lang is tomorrow, so I'm sure that any students watching right now will go to bed early. Nice breakfast, all of that. It'll be great. But we're excited for that, right? A lot of teachers have talked about how confident students feel compared to years past. As far as what's next for teachers, they are signing up for free Mass Insight AP Institutes in the summer. We'll be calibrating and adjusting curriculum plans over the summer based off of the results, and we'll review that exam data when it's available. And in terms of excellence, I know this question comes up, and so I just wanted to be ready with that there. But I think and this is an ongoing goal, and I want to give credit both to our central office administration and our building administration. The goal is that every student who wants to take an AP class will take it. The goal is also that every student who takes an exam will get a 3 or above. Right? That's the goal. I forget who said it. I heard it from Al Pacino, is man's reach should ever exceed his grasp, right? We should have lofty goals. That's what should push us. And one concrete way to help make that happen is to keep a nice low student to staff ratio. That was for me one of the important things to hear anecdotally from Mass Insight is what type of relation, what are we seeing for high performing schools in terms of class sizes? We have had in the past, as Ms. Hall can attest, sometimes class sizes of up to 30 in AP Lang. We've been able to bring that down year by year. But that's a concrete thing that can help us do both, right? In terms of enabling a lot of access, hopefully also working towards excellence. That looks like it's just over 20 minutes. I'm sorry, I tell my students that you have to do it 20 minutes or less, but I want to pause there. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy to take questions. Sally's here, Kathy is here as well. So if we can be helpful, please just let us know.
And thank you for that, Mr. Scott. That's a great insight to how, what you're doing this year with the AP exams and then, how it's impacting our students. That's great insight for us to have and for the community as well. I'll turn to the committee, see if there are any questions.
I have a couple of questions. So I also, as the chairman said, have much gratitude for you bringing this to us, because as you, I'm sure, know better than I do, there's lots of conversations around AP exams with the rankings that are coming out and that notion. And so I'm wondering, John, if you could talk a little bit about, I read articles that say schools are pushing everybody to participate because it bumps the rankings. Then there are schools that say we're only going to have the kids that we think will do well because that bumps the rankings. So can you talk about sort of how Scituate is managing? Because I know you said anybody who wants to take the exam will be able to,
Yeah.
and then we'll also pass, or that's the goal.
Yeah.
Can you sort of talk about how, because math, the thing I really loved about Mass Insight was this focus on equity and opportunity. So can you just talk a little bit about the behind the scenes, like not just the prep, but like what's going into talking to students about AP, selection, all that sort of, if you don't mind?
No, not at all. And one of the things I can speak to a certain extent about this, and is that there is, and I forget the formal name, but there's essentially an AP council, if you will, that's with the high school. Dr. McGuire is on that, math department chair, science department chair, an English teacher who's been deeply involved and really enjoys getting involved with this. They meet regularly, and they are the ones that are kind of that behind the scenes work. I can't speak in too much detail to that, but what I can say is that they have these conversations frequently. I get looped into them, as you can imagine. But the commitment to access is one that has existed since I've been here for the past 4 years. That's always been a big focus for here. And certainly, and again, I think to me, I look at what I have some type of control over, right? And that's when it comes to assigning classes and creating the schedule. The class size to me is really one of the big things where the rubber meets the road. And I think that's ultimately the area where there's a concrete thing that can happen that can help with the scores. I can speak very anecdotally to that. When I was able to make sure that our class sizes got to 20 or fewer for AP Lit over the past 4 years, you can see it's a clear trend of scores go up as the class size has gone down. Again, that's a small sample, but it's enough to be there. And yeah, does that answer the question?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
And I just had a follow-up, sort of related. So, I understand the 3+ is sort of the sweet spot with respect to colleges. How are you and your team defining success more sort of broadly than just that test score? Like what else are you sort of looking for?
Yeah. I think this might be, I'm not deflecting, but Kathy, is this a good test?
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to talk about it. In fact, someone from Mass Insight, Julie Alexander, came in and spoke with all 3 of my AP language and composition classes. And she started her lesson with a very powerful statement. She said to students, that this test that you're going to take in May does not define you. This course is about building skills. And that's what we're really working toward. And that I did speak with Julie afterwards. I said, that is music to my ears because as a district, I don't think our message has ever been, it's about the score or it's about the test. And I certainly, have tried to project that in my own teaching. But, the skills that students are learning in AP language and composition, as John said, the argumentation, the analysis, the commentary. I mean, those are skills that are going to help them in, any endeavor, academic or professional. So I really do feel like Scituate's philosophy and Mass Insight's philosophy, it's very aligned. And is that at the core of your question or?
Yeah, and I'm just curious, and I'm sorry, my colleagues have taken up too much airtime here. This will be the last one, I promise. It's just, in addition to the mock exam scores that you're getting, for example, I guess I'm wondering, Kathy, how are you sort of being able to see, or like if a student, like if I were to not get the 3, but I did all those other things, how will I know? Like, what's the evidence that I did achieve those other things, I guess?
Oh, okay, so well, actually, the College Board has very clear rubrics.
Perfect.
But I will say, you know, even with those rubrics, I've oftentimes for the last 7 years kind of felt like, well, you know, some of it's a little bit subjective. And again, this is where Mass Insight, you know, has really helped me understand, you know, what some of these rubrics really mean. And using those rubrics for essays, and the students do a lot of essay writing, which again, writing is such a valuable skill. You know, putting the specificity into their writing, putting like, we call it deep commentary, or global commentary. Again, those are college level skills, the sophistication that we're pushing them for in their writing is something that you actually do see students kind of turning the corner. And I was mentioning to John, you know, a few of my students, they've really only recently turned the corner. Some of them, frankly, they come in October and they probably don't even need this course. That's very few, by the way, but yeah, no, you do see it. As a teacher, you really see it. And again, it's very driven by what we're looking for in these rubrics, or what the rubrics are pushing us to look for.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'd like to add a couple of things to Kathy's statements. Some more evidence you have are course grades. Students that do really well in the course and maybe just have a bad test day, all right. Students' confidence level, where they, in grade 11, they took this class, and in grade 12, they are more apt to sign up for the next round of AP classes in the 12th grade. They're not reluctant. There are a lot of transferable skills. Kids who study and do well in AP Lang probably do well in AP Statistics, AP Biology, and AP US History. There's a lot of skills transference in these other courses. And I think when you start to see your students and more of them taking advantage of the opportunities to get into these classes, that's really some evidence about that it's working. We also, I can't emphasize the supports for students enough. If you're opening this up as you do, you're using PSET potential score, you're using teacher recommendations, et cetera, to find the kids who have potential and interest and motivation. You just have to scaffold a little bit more. You have to be available for extra help. You have to make sure that these students are coming to our study sessions that are above and beyond classroom instruction. Talk about paying for tutors. This is at no cost to the students. And twice a year, they get 6 hours, well, 3 hours each time of instructional experience that reinforce what the teacher does. We also offer, and your school counselor should be hearing about this soon, through state funding, we are offering all Massachusetts high school students, and our partner schools get first dibs at registration, a summer bridge program. And it's an intro to all of the AP STEM and English courses, science, math, and English, as well as a general study skills class. It's 1 week in August, it's virtual, and students can choose either an afternoon or a morning session, 2.5 hours. And from last year, what we found was students in their surveys talked about what a confidence builder that was, particularly for kids who weren't really sure. And I would suggest that.
Sally, I'm sorry, just because there's a packed agenda, I just want to turn it over.
I just want to let you know about Summer Bridge.
No, thank you. No, it's hugely important, but.
There's no time.
Okay, no.
I have to stay online, so you
I get 2 kids, I gotta get back to a little bit.
That kind of what led into my question though, which was after students and teachers get the feedback, if you do identify student who needs more supports, you know, what do those supports look like?
Are you referring to the feedback from the mock exam?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the mock exam is one piece, but you know, there is feedback all throughout the year.
Yeah.
But the mock exam specifically, yes, it was very informative for both students and teachers. Yeah, so it really did maybe confirm, you know, probably what I new about many students, but again, it's very interesting when they get specific feedback from someone other than their teacher.
Absolutely.
So I think that is powerful. Yes,
Need those.
very
Need those
powerful.
people. Right.
Yeah, I had one student, she's a top student. She had written an essay that unfortunately didn't, match the prompt closely enough. It was a beautiful essay. She was very discouraged by the grade. And so we sat there and we talked about it and we went through it. And, then she could clearly see, based on, what had happened in this mock exam, where, yes, she's an incredible writer. She's a college level writer, but she wasn't really responding to the prompt the way she needed to.
Well, I like that individualized learning element that's really kind of coming through. As a whole, it seems like a really successful program so far, so it's great.
Yeah, thanks very much for doing this. I think that, I'm gonna say we probably owe a lot of this to Heidi. We weren't aware as a school committee, much like you guys weren't, that there was this Mass Insight program. So thank you to Heidi for doing that. It's nice to hear, I know that she had mentioned it and we kind of like, oh, Mass Insight, we have a relationship, but we don't even know what it is. So it's great to see it kind of in practice. With that being said, I have a couple of questions specific to Mass Insight. The exams are, you said the mock exam is 3 hours. Is that during school or I think you said it was after school or is it on a weekend?
No, it's during school. What we did is, again, figuring it out right this year when we did it, what we decided was to do it on a delayed start, right, a late start, just to be able to have that kind of hour where the buses still run, so people who take the bus can still get the bus and get in here. And that includes our Boston resident students also were able to get here and have access for that. That just seemed the best way, and teachers have just been great as a staff, willing to give up basically the 2 first blocks. And it's not just for English, it's for science and math as well. So there's a big time commitment there. But again, if this is something that students are taking that seriously, that we give them the opportunity to do that.
Sure. This might be for Sally. Why would districts not use Mass Insight? Sally, why aren't you in every district in the?
I wish I were, quite frankly. Some districts have all they need. They have all their resources. They don't need any other resources. There is a program fee that matches is matched with state funding and private funding that we have at Mass Insight. Sometimes that becomes an issue. And sometimes people just don't know about us, despite my many efforts. Believe me, I try. And we really try to target schools that do have a demographic of where marginally underserved kids exist and aren't getting into these classes. And we try to help them figure out why. So there's really a host of reasons. And I taught in your neighboring town of Marshfield for my career. And I was the only one that taught AP Lang when I was there. And I wish I had this program when I was there.
So how long has Mass Insight offered these programs or this program?
Well, they've been in existence for about 14 years. And when they were first started, this particular program, this AP program, was part of a national program. And that partnership no longer exists. We're our own agency, just with Mass Insight. We're publicly, privately funded. And I've been in the program for 11 years.
Great, thank you. Thanks to Heidi and thanks to you guys for providing us insight on Mass Insight. I think it was great.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, it'll be easy. So not having a student yet who has taken an AP test, they don't normally get any feedback. They just get the score from when they take the real test. So having this feedback is so beneficial. I think it's great. And I wonder what was the percentage of students that didn't take advantage of the mock exam? Did they all?
And every single one of my students signed up.
Lang, the vast majority of students in Lang did. I do have those numbers. I don't have them off the top of my head. a very high percentage of playing. I want to say at least like, I would say it was like 92, 95% of playing students took it. It was a smaller percentage for lit though. And again, there could be a number of reasons for that. Anything from, wanting to have your delayed start, right? But also having the experience, right? Like in senior year, they would have had experience taking
Right, some
AP
yeses
exams
back
already.
then.
So,
It was tinnitus.
So I think so there's that, but yeah, it was I want to say it was high 90% for playing, but understandably a smaller percentage.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But maybe once they hear the success rate, how helpful it was for their peers that graduated or, as it goes on, they'll see the value in it even more and they're not going to jump up.
Well, and I think you make a really valuable
They hear about that $500 too.
from the college board exam.
Yeah.
The only feedback you have is your score, right?
Right, so how do you
Right,
learn
so,
what
yeah.
You don't know where.
And frankly, you get that in July when you're on the beach and. Yeah, so that's great.
So I just have one question for you. A lot of my stuff is answered. So do you see, it was great to see that students wanted to do the mock exam more often through the year. Do you see that being beneficial in like in November, January, when they're just getting the AP class, or at least saying like, here's the question, let's struggle through it and then build on it, or is?
No, it's a great question, and I think what it comes down to is, if it's possible, is trying to find maybe more than just this one day, this one time, you can take this one exam. Are we able to do something structurally, right, where we can offer it? Okay, for whatever reason you have something on this Wednesday that you can't come, can you, could we offer the same tests maybe a week later? But that gets into the logistics of, just kind of everything from the bell schedule to trying to, balance off the time there. I think doing it at the halfway point is probably the earliest that we'd want to do it, especially for the turnaround, right? Because it does take a lot of time for the grades there. But I think it's certainly something that, the kind of the AP council that we have here can look into more, to investigate that and explore that.
I might add too that math and science mock exams occur later in the year because the students really need to cover more content. Otherwise, the mock exam would not be valuable.
That makes sense. My question is probably more for English as opposed to math.
Right, and in English, January is about right, January, February. And traditionally, before COVID and when everything went virtual, we scheduled a Saturday morning for our partner schools to take this mock exam, where the kids came to the building on a Saturday morning and you administered your own exams. And they slotted a 3-hour, and schools sometimes give them breakfast. We give out raffle prizes and things like that when it's in person on a Saturday morning. And if you give the students enough lead time with the date, that would take care of, work schedules. It's only 3 hours once, so if you tell them in September that on, January 23rd, your mock exam will occur, they can plan ahead and, with families.
All right, thank you very much for this presentation.
All right, thank you. And Sally, I just want to thank you again for joining us remotely. It was really helpful. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks y'all.
If any of you have follow-up questions, please feel free to email me.
All right, well, thank you. All right, so next on the agenda, we have our student advisory report. So one of our students is in person for the first time in 2 years.
Yeah, it's nice to meet everyone. Finally. Johnny's not with us today, which is so upsetting. It's a baseball game. Alrighty, well, before I get started on that, I just wanted to say, with like the language department particularly, I've been an AP student. I've been taking APs throughout since sophomore year. And I think the language department in particular, and this is just a shameless plug for you guys, is like the department that across all students, but definitely particularly myself, has made me feel most prepared for AP exams. And I was one of those seniors with senioritis that didn't take advantage of the AP mock exams. But I know Jesse took my brother Jesse, he took the Lang mock exam and he said it was helpful, and he's not a strong writer, but his writing through taking specifically the AP Lang course has made his writing a lot better. I've noticed as this critical sister. But that department just, as a school district, you should know, did a fantastic job at teaching students, preparing them for the courses, and that goal of getting all 3 on the exam, I think is totally reasonable. Because I think that from the student perspective, I mean, you'll always get those students that just like have an off day or whatever it is, but that students are prepared, I think. And especially with the mock stuff, that sounds fantastic. Alrighty.
Get to the middle, Celia.
Alrighty, getting to my neck of the woods. Last Friday, the 29th, our senior class had prom, and it was so exciting. It was absolutely fantastic. It was at Indian Pond in Kingston. Everybody had a great time. The DJ, a former student here, Nova, okay, Dante, he was fantastic. He was there. It was amazing. Everyone was dancing. There was places to go outside. It may have been a bit of a COVID hotspot, but that's okay. It was worth it. Even the food was good. So it worked out. It was fantastic. It was definitely going to be a night that everyone remembers. I think we all needed that. As you know, during this last week and this upcoming week, AP students are taking their exams. Everybody's preparing. I think lots of students feel very prepared from the student perspective. I know I felt prepared for mine that I took last week, and I expect many 5s between this group of students and the teachers that we have. Meanwhile, underclassmen right now are making their course selections for next year. We've prepared various sets of like, as an upperclassman who's into music, like these are the courses that I suggest that will prepare you for music if you're interested in that, and those kind of videos and instructionals. There's a lot of intergrade talking. We get to know each other through that, and underclassmen get to hear from us. So, they're preparing for their futures with that. The class of 2023 National Honor Society's induction ceremonies were last week. Lots of SHS students from the junior class and a few seniors who are now qualifying this year got inducted into the National Honor Society and their respective language honor societies. So that's really exciting. School play, Legally Blonde, has been postponed to May 19th at 7 p.m. I definitely suggest coming. The theater group does an absolutely spectacular job. They're so good. They've won their besties and leagues and tournaments, and they're just fantastic. It's so much fun seeing them. They're such fantastic personalities. Seniors Haley McCarthy and Johnny Who's Missing won the Patriot League Scholar Athlete Award, which is so exceptional. That's a league honor, and that's a great honor for both the school district and themselves personally. And that goes to students who are both exceptional athletes and have high academic standing. And the last thing, as the senior year comes to a close, the events are stacked up for seniors. The last day of school is the 25th, and the senior picnic and elementary school visits follow on Friday the 27th. On Tuesday the 31st, the class is taking a trip to Loft Boston, and on Wednesday the 1st, we have our dinner dance. That's at the River Club per the usual. On Friday, we'll graduate, which is so exciting, and that's followed by the all-night party, which is held at the U. And that is all. And that's also my last student report. I think you're getting some new juniors coming next week, so I didn't really fully prepare my thoughts on this, but I just wanted to say, as a student who's been through the Scituate school system, K through 12, I think that I have received a good education, a really good education. And I think that a lot of people on school boards, Scituate Monthly, whatever it is, tend to be a little overly critical in my perspective of whether it's the education or all these different minute factors of what it is. And of course, criticisms are valid and there's some things that always need to be worked on, but I found that success for students is completely possible. I mean, the colleges that we're all getting into is crazy, and that happens like year to year, and it seems to only be getting better in my eyes because, we've all been stalking the past classroom pages, and it's like, we're achieving incredible things as students, and I think the departments, the teachers here, particularly in high school, because those 4 years of which you consciously remember learning have taught me to become better writers, better thinkers. My math skills are now pretty decent, which they weren't going into it, which is great. And I think that the education, the opportunities to become a leader, whether it's sports, things like this, clubs, those different facets of where students can find their excellence is something that you can absolutely find in Scituate. So I just want to commemorate everybody for that. I had a great time here. And I know that's not the same for everyone, but I think that the majority of students, whether there will always be more criticism than our accolades, have found success. And if not, good memories here. And so that's, I think, a win. And that's all.
Well, first off, thank you for, thank you for the past years. You and Johnny are big of everything. And I mean, this is the insight we get into this, the high school, but, really seeing, your response, what you want to push forward. I mean, you've given us a lot of things to be challenged on and try to act on. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone has any questions about
I just have a general comment, I guess. So I ran to Celia one a couple of months ago.
yeah.
And it was like probably the third or fourth time I've seen her out in town. And she's everywhere. So she's the hostess at the Cheever Tavern. She works at Dribbles in the harbor. And it turns out I guess I reminded her that I was actually at her brother's 5th birthday party. It was at her house, whatever it was, 12 years ago. My son and her brother went to ECC together. But you wouldn't know from Celia that she's working hard. She's obviously succeeding in school. She comes here and does her best. She's going to Harvard. I don't think anyone would know that. She's way too modest. I think that we need to promote people like Celia. She's going to Harvard. I think that everyone that walks this high school, if you have a chance to go to Harvard, if you take advantage of whatever you do here and reach your maximum potential, you can do it too. And that's all that we ask a school district to do. So Celia told me a little bit of her specifics. She wasn't the all-star student going into freshman year.
I'm not the valedictorian.
She's not the valedictorian. She's not the captain of 3 sports. I think you said you don't play any sports.
No, I struggled to swim a few years, but
she still has the platform to get into a college such as Harvard. So I think that we need to celebrate her and everything that our district offers to provide the opportunity for our students. So I just wanted to say that in public. I know that she wouldn't say it, but I needed to. Because again, when I first saw her at Dribbles, I was like, this girl is great, but I would never imagine that she's an all-star student. And that was a stigma or stereotype that I may be attached to her. And I was just surprised and very, I guess, excited and enthralled that she's going. No, I figured someone that's going to Harvard, I think they're studying. That's all they do is study, but that's not what Celia does. She takes advantage of everything the town has to offer, the school has to have. That's really what my point is. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was trying to get at earlier. And I think that's the case for so many students that I think this district has a lot of fantastic opportunities where students can find places where they excel and find, I joined student government freshman year. From that spiraled into being invited to one of Dr. McGuire's councils. From that, this, and all these different things, and they build on each other, and there's so many opportunities. Those kind of loopholes of opportunity happens for so many students, whether it be the students I know that are taking pre-calc sophomore year, freshman year, so that they can take AP Calc and all these different things, and advanced courses, that kind of thing, manipulating their GPAs, whatever it is, or the theater students, they have incredible opportunities as well, and there are so many areas where students can excel, and I think that's something the district has built that you all should be so proud of, because without all of the opportunities, I might have never fell into student government or fell into these different representative committees and all that stuff that has built up my confidence and different things that push students to achieve greater things going into college, and that's something that the district has done. So absolutely. It's both the students and the two-way street. Yeah, so thank you. It's
Enjoy the last few weeks.
Yeah, I certainly am. Don't worry about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Bye.
Okay, come back to follow, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Beatty for a presentation on the state of Higgs Middle School.
right. Thank you for having me here tonight. We'll first admire this beautiful picture because we go to a beautiful school, we work at a beautiful school, we learn in a beautiful school. But what really makes this school community an exceptional place is the 600 students that exist inside and the more than 90 staff members that come to work every day and create magic that happens inside the walls of our beautiful building. So I am the lucky one here tonight to share so many of the great things that happen at Gates Middle School. Like many of the principals before me who have shared the magic of their schools, this is such a hard presentation to do because there is just so much going on in our schools every single day that it's hard to kind of limit it to what we're doing. So I wanted to thank all of the students and staff at my school or at our school for contributing and giving us great ideas to share with you tonight. Each morning at Gates, we recite our core values, and these core values have existed since before we moved into our new building. And so each day we commit to generating academic excellence. Each day we commit to appreciating every unique spirit within inside of our building. We commit to thinking, creating, and collaborating. We commit to empowering each other. And we commit to standing up for a safe, positive learning environment. What makes our core values so special, specifically this year, is that they align so nicely to the two pillars that have been the focus of our work, which is excellence, collaboration, and personalization. And so when you look at our mission statement, kind of big things that should pop out is that we understand that we are having students with diverse learning needs and diverse learning profiles. And it is our job as a school to find people and meet them where they're at and kind of push them in a direction that promotes learning, growth, and excellence. And so we thought starting with the core values, because that is how we kind of help make decisions as a building, how we just everything that we do ties back to our core values. Like all of the other schools, we are aligned with the two district pillars, the pillar 1 meaning collaboration and pillar 2 meaning excellence, with that beautiful personalization coming in between. And what was really exciting for the team at Gates, as I said, with our core values, is we really do believe in these. We believe that it is our responsibility every single day to work with people, work with students, work with families, work with teachers. We believe that it is our job every day to move people one step further, whether that is a test score, whether that's a boost of confidence, whether that's exposing someone to something new. We believe that, and it's been exciting this year to have these as the pillars to guide our work. So we'll take a look just first at the idea of this concept of collaboration. Collaboration exists with all different grades. It's just our staff collaboration. And we're fortunate at Gates to have a schedule that promotes and provides time for educators to work together during the school day to collaborate on a bunch of things. At Gates, every single teacher has the time to work with their grade level partner to ensure that the curriculum is aligned and consistent for students regardless of who their teacher is. Believe it or not, you could go into a 7th grade math class on the 1st floor and then walk upstairs to the 7th grade math class on the 2nd floor, and they're doing the same thing. And that's not to say that teachers are robots, but teachers are given time to work together to say, okay, where are we? What standards do we want to focus on? How did your students do? How did my students do? Let's look at some data. And then together plan out lessons that target specific needs of kids. We can ensure that every single student is getting a good experience, a quality experience in the curriculum, because we have the time during the school day for teachers to work together. During this time, they also look at data, whether it's MCAS data, IXL data, PAIR data, when that youth risk behavior survey data comes out. And we really take a look and say, where are our students, doing well? Where are areas that we need to kind of put intervention in place, whether it's academic intervention or any other type of intervention. And from there, we design targeted instruction and opportunities for either support, acceleration, or enrichment. We like this because without this time built into the day, it would be very hard to guarantee that consistency. But teachers at Gates use that time wisely to figure out exactly what we need to do for all students. In terms of family and parent and caregiver collaboration, this year we really tried very hard to create many opportunities to bring people into the building, just as we once did prior to COVID. We started the year off with our expectations night, which was standing room only. Each month we've offered a coffee with caregiver opportunity during the school day. And I'd say we've had anywhere between 10 and 20 attendees per month, which is great. And ultimately, these are opportunities where we can share information, but then we can also get information from people. And if anyone knows me, I like a really tight agenda with no surprises. And that second half of that meeting has been great because it's, okay, now it's your turn, and give us good ideas and give us good, what's going on with your student, what questions do you have about what's happening at Gates? And it's really been a nice opportunity to hear what community members and parents are curious about or want to see or questions they have. And so that will be something that we will continue on from year to year, and we've been doing it each month. We have used data from our peer survey as well as from parent input to offer 2 different workshops for parents, one focusing on executive functioning, the other focusing on student anxiety. As we're seeing kind of increased numbers with things or with challenges dealing with anxiety and depression, we recognize that students are with us from 8 o'clock until 2:31, and that we need to work with parents because the day continues on, and we can be partnering to support students with things like executive functioning or anxiety or depression. We have more likelihood of having an impact on students and supporting them in whatever way they need. New this year, we also have a parent caregiver expert panel, and we strongly believe that the community and our parents and our families can offer so much to our students and to enhance their learning. And so in the beginning of the year, we sent out a survey that said, who are you, what do you do, and will you talk to us? And we collected, over 60 people within our school community who were willing to either come in as experts or come in as a judge for a particular exhibit that students are putting together, or, in terms of will help practice interviewing with students. It's really been great, and we have that, and we hope to add on each year to that, because this year we did in geography a unit on Africa, and it was actually a retired professor of African studies who said, let me into this. And, he worked with our 7th grade geography teachers, and they worked together to say, all right, how can we create an experience and expose kids to someone with even more knowledge, and that's just been really, really exciting. And so if you didn't sign up for it, you're more than willing, you're more than able to share your expertise. This year we revitalized our student council. We haven't had a student council at Gates in a while, and so it's been great this year. We have over 70 student representatives, so 2 from each classroom, and it's been great because we need student input in the decisions we're making as a building. We need student spirit in terms of, I can plan a spirit week, but my idea of a spirit week might look different than other 6th graders. So we need their input, and it's just been great in terms of things like looking at our handbook at the end of the year for revisions for next year. We're very interested in hearing the student perspective of that, and the student council is our vehicle for that. We have our Gates Lit team, so every school has a Lit team. Ours this year, we can say we've been very successful because we've hosted a number of opportunities for our students as well as the community. And so we started the year off working with Jameel Adams to have 3 smashing This Is Our House presentations, which was great. We'll have 1 big one next year, but 3 mini ones were 3 times the fun and 3 times the love and the inclusion to start that year. And then it was great. We have a lit wall, and so anybody who's feeling like they need some love or inclusive messages can go to that wall and take a message. And we have a group that creates those messages each day, or not each day, each week. And that's been a great addition to our school. We have a staff monthly diversity, equity, and inclusion digest, which we have 3 staff members who are very, very, very committed to seeing practical ways to enhance this or incorporate this into our everyday teaching practices. And so each month they put out a DEI digest. And finally, we've hosted a targeting talk, how to take a stand and lend a hand workshop for students, and teaching them how to be upstanders, teaching them how to engage in conversations, dealing with topics relating to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And finally, just that cultural lunch piece, which my colleague Tracy Reardon at Wampatuck, they planned a great cultural lunch there. We are in the process right now of planning one for Gates. And everybody loves food, and it's a great way to learn and just kind of celebrate all of the great things members of our community and open people's eyes and taste buds to new things, and a good way to learn. Finally, for collaboration, we have the most outstanding PTO ever. This year, they've provided 10 grants to us to enhance our cultural enrichment opportunities within the curriculum. In the past, our PTO has said, all right, we have money and how can we share it? This year, they worked very hard with us to say, all right, what are your school goals for this year? And so they provided us with, I think it's about $24,000 worth of grants to enhance cultural enrichment opportunities for students relating to the concept of home away from home and academic excellence. And so some things that we've done is we had a collaboration with the South Shore Art Center. They came in and did a great partnership with us, focusing on Japanese art with one particular social studies class. They have funded Chupal, which is a Swedish game. It's fascinating, and it's good ways of enhancing our curriculum and weaving in some eye-opening experiences for kids to see how different things are in different places of the world, right here in our movie. So these are our pieces linking to collaboration. Our next piece is, or next pillar deals with the concept of excellence. If you remember at our March 23rd school committee meeting, I was joined by John Scopoletti and Liz Grindle, and we looked very closely at our Title I Math and ELA program. And so this year, we identified 128 learners who needed support in order to close the gap in their math and their ELA. We administered a progress monitoring tool, a diagnostic assessment in the beginning of the year. From there, we then identified those 128 learners. We designed schedules for them that included both push-in to the regular ed classroom, as well as some pull-out. And every student was, in terms of all students are, right now the data shows that they are all within or above grade level achievement expectations. And those students receiving services or supports, those gaps are closing as the year ends. And so kind of two things with that piece, this progress monitoring tool that IXL, we have not necessarily used this as a whole grade level before. And we like the fact that we have an assessment that we give to everyone multiple times a year, instead of just grades and work completion or MCAS. So we use this, and we've been using this well to help us kind of close some gaps that exist. At Gates, we've offered 12 Scituate Engagement Academies. So we've been very fortunate this year to have many students take advantage of academic opportunities that will accelerate their learning and their interest in particular areas. And so we had a Hispanic tradition and culture, which is a continuation of all the Spanish 6, 7, and 8. That has run 3 times, and each time that group gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We've offered them in robotics, design, and creation, and those are very well attended. And that was done by our district technology director and our technology teacher. And again, that is a continuation of the engineering classes and technology classes that we offer at Gates. So we were able to kind of recruit those students that needed more and had an interest and a passion in that, and provide them something that perhaps could not be achieved in the regular classroom. And then finally, we offered different grade level math workshops for grades 6, 7, and 8, both a combination of those students who needed some acceleration to close gaps, but then also those that needed an extra challenge and either are getting that in the classroom and wanted more or just wanted a challenge with that. And so these are still going on. They're going on until, I believe, the end of next week. Very well attended, 70 students. We're very proud that we could offer 12 of those just to continue kind of our mission of creating opportunities for additional excellence at Gates. In terms of students' social and emotional excellence, we administer the PAIR assessment each year. We've been administering this for about 6 years. We administer it to grades 6, 7, and 8. When we give this survey in December, we get the results in January. Our idea is let's take a look at the data in order to develop interventions to kind of, remove some of the barriers that exist for students and to promote their growth in this area. At Gates this year, we're really proud that our top strengths as a school is our empathy, relationships with peers, and emotional control. And then our top challenges for this year were assertiveness, learning interests, and relationships with adults. And this work is really, it's work that we're committed to, because if we can get students interested in their learning, we can get students kind of to persevere and have an optimistic outlook in life, but then also when they have a hard math test in front of them, we know that we're going to start to see increased academic achievements and increased growth. And so when we talk about social emotional learning, teachers at Gates, what we do is we try to design interventions, whether they're tier 1 interventions, meaning everyone in the whole class gets them, or tier 2 or tier 3 interventions that use students' strengths to grow their challenge areas. And that's been really fun. And it's not fun, but it is fun, but it's also, it's good work, because how do we use the idea that kids like working with each other to build the fact that they don't like sharing their own opinions? And so, through that, we say, all right, in our curriculum, instead of saying, what is the theme of mice and men, we say, take a stance on this position. Use your peers to kind of together create an argument, but make sure it's an argument that you believe. And so the SEL kind of interventions are not just, standalone interventions. It's how do we use our curriculum, how do we use our time, how do we use our resources to build these skills in order to kind of remove those barriers that currently exist for students personally. And then finally, celebrating excellence. We had 414 students earn honor roll or high honor roll in trimester 1, which is exceptional. Our kids are working hard, our kids are earning good grades. In the second trimester, when kind of things get harder, we still had 370 students, which is exceptional. And then in this year's 8th grade class, we have invited 81 students to apply for induction into the National Junior Honor Society. So we have very high performing students, students that get good grades, students that are supported, that take advantage of all opportunities to kind of accelerate their learning, to enhance their learning. And we are proud of kind of not just what we can offer, but the fact that students take advantage of everything that we have. Finally, when these marry excellence and collaboration, and we start talking about personalization, one of our goals this year was to improve our response to intervention and student support team process. We know that when we offer a rigorous program, that some students are going to need more support. This year, 82 students have been identified through our RTI process. And what that means is that 82 students have been brought up of needing something more. And through our RTI process, we have teams of teachers. Every single teacher in our building is on an RTI team. And what we do at an RTI meeting is we look at some data and we say, okay, what data do we have on Johnny? And maybe Johnny, is struggling with reading because his IXL score is this. Maybe Johnny's attendance is low. Maybe Johnny's conduct is up, and his visits to the counselor are down this month. And so what we do is we put all of those together, and then we say, all right, what is the question we can develop in order to address kind of some of these needs, and what is the data we're going to use to indicate kind of that this intervention is working. And so every intervention is different. Every intervention looks different and is measured differently. But in terms of typically some of the data points we use to determine if our interventions are sticking are grades, work completion, attendance, behavior, students feeling connected to school, among other things. And in terms of, we talk sometimes about kind of success with interventions. If we can intervene and provide students with what they need in a way that kind of is shown through things like grades, we can perhaps avoid having to do a referral for special education if we can together come up with a plan for a student and exhaust, everything that we can do prior to making that referral for special education. So that is something that we as a team, as a whole school-based team, we've been working hard, and each year we seem to be getting better and better and better at it and more creative with the interventions. And that is, I feel like, a piece that students and families, it is a strictly personal piece. And so parents are involved in this process, and they know that interventions are being developed and they're on the same page. And we're all supporting that student to get and grow and achieve in whatever way we're looking to improve. At Gates this year, the personalization piece, we've done some home away from home challenges. So 100% of families at Gates received a welcome home call prior to the first day of school. 100% of students received a handwritten postcard from a staff member to acknowledge their achievement and growth and contributions to our school community. And our third challenge, 100% of our staff will also get a personalized message from someone who filled out the survey, and we're working on that right now. So kind of just this idea of, we want to create this culture where everyone, whether it's students, families, staff, really feels like they belong and are a part of and are recognized for all of their contributions. And we're proud that we reached our goals 100% all the time. So last one, incorporation and celebration of students' interests and passions. We strongly believe that at the middle school level, kids need to be hooked in. Kids need to be interested in what we're doing in order to feel that connection that they need to grow in each way. We've had an increased use of authentic and performance-based assessment within the curriculum that oftentimes allows for voice and choice in students' demonstration of mastery or progress of the standards that they are set for them. 100% of our students were placed in their top interest-based clubs. We offered 71 clubs this year during the school day every other week, which students strongly enjoy and feel connected to one another with. We had an increase in our participation in the band and chorus program, so over 200 students involved in that, and are super strong and super proud of our music program. And this past weekend, it was the SEMSPA piece of it, and our own Mr. Lassard was the guest conductor. And I heard it was a great day for our students and for him. Our athletic intramural programs, we are offering 8 intramurals this year, which is an increase from the past. So we've added volleyball because that's what people wanted, and volleyball's huge now. It's great. We also just added disc golf, so it's another great one, taking advantage of our partnership with SEF, who built and contributed to our school. That's been a great one. And then all of our extracurricular programs, we offer 15 of them, and increased participation is up in all of those. And so we're really happy that students are, feeling like their school is their home away from home. And we're proud to offer kind of so many different things that allow people to be exposed to different things, but also kind of find their niche, because that's what middle school is all about. It's learning who you are as a learner, as a person, and getting the support and being challenged. So where are we going as a school? Our instructional leadership team is continuing to talk about the concept of excellence, in an area that we want to start talking about is grading and assessment practices. We give A's, B's, C's, and D's. We want to make sure that we know what an A means, what a B means, what a C means. And we want to make sure that, there aren't discrepancies between our grades and our test scores and our, student interests and things like that. And so we're continuing to just have conversations about that as it links to the concept of excellence. RTI, or response to intervention, we are going to continue to work with our director of special education to work towards a multi-tiered system of support, which will allow us to kind of proactively address some of the needs, academic, social, emotional, behavioral, personal needs of students. We do a good job with RTI, and we're excited to kind of transition as we learn more about MTSS and kind of the elements of it to support even more students than we currently are. And we're excited to continue our efforts to promote inclusivity and celebrate diversity at Gates. We have done great things, and with our diversity, equity, and inclusion director, Jamil, we're very grateful for his support and his direction. And that's one of the things that we are going to do to continue to go from great to even greater. So that is Gates in a nutshell. Here are some pictures to end, showing smiling, happy people doing great things, challenging themselves. And again, thanks for listening to me tonight, and thanks to everybody who contributed from Gates to what we were able to share tonight.
Okay, thank you. It's a great presentation. Very cool. Let's start by turning it over to the committee for any questions or comments that they have.
Questions and comments?
I have a question about we have the parent guardian volunteers for the expert panel. Did that replace career day?
So that, I don't want to say it replaced career day. It gave us more of a, of a bank of, okay, instead of just having one day where we talk about careers, let's find opportunities when we're in that 8th grade science class studying chemistry. Look, we have a real live chemist who can come in and, one teacher's talking about atoms, but this chemist can come in and talk about kind of a real life connection in that moment. So for this year, it may be replaced, but we're looking to kind
That
of
sounds more
practical and kind of fit it in more organically to kind of really, if we're talking about enhancing learning, whether they're randomly.
Make it relevant to what they're learning.
Yes.
Yeah. And the student anxiety workshop, that doesn't surprise me that that was requested. I mean, middle school is such a tough year for kids, compounded with, them being, going through changes and social media and now a pandemic. So that's, that the RTI workshop teams, I should say. But I know, like, you have the students for 6.5 hours a day. The teachers are doing their job, and I'm forever amazed of all this extra work that goes on in addition to the teachers just teaching, and that's hard enough. So it just amazes me, impresses me of all this other background stuff that happens in the background that a lot of parents might not know about, to make sure students' needs are met. They can become excellent students and you meet them where they are and help them excel. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. The teachers do phenomenal work, and I think it's, when we talk about teaching, we teach kids. And sure, we teach science and math, we teach kids, and I think that RTI process is about, okay, how can we help Joe learn science? And oftentimes the interventions are strictly academic. We're going to break down the content. But sometimes it is that, all right, Joe needs to build his ability to persevere. So what can we do, in the classroom in those moments? And it's great to have teachers working together to do that, because it's not about just the science, it's about Joe's individual needs.
Right.
And so teaching is a lot more than just planning lessons. It's really getting to know your kids, using data, but also using that human piece too, that helps us to help kids achieve.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a question, or just a curiosity more. Thank you first for the presentation. That was really great. I have kids in elementary school, so it's nice to hear what's going on at the middle school. So, in addition to what Janice was saying about the parent caregiver panel and the targeting talk, I'm curious, what lessons are you learning from these experiences that perhaps we could use at other buildings in the district or with the community? I'm just curious, what are you learning?
So we're learning a lot. We are, and I think we're learning that everybody's coming into these conversations with different understanding of what it is, and everybody is at a different, place on this continuum of understanding, what we mean by how do we become more of an inclusive environment. And I think the biggest takeaway we've learned is that we need entry points for everyone, for every student, for every family, for every staff member, and that, we need to listen. We need to listen to everyone. We need to work together. And so I think the work that we've been doing with Jamil. Is Jamil here? I keep talking. So I think the work that we've been doing with Jamil has helped us to say, okay, like, sure, we want goals and we want objectives, but we also need to work together to see where everyone is. And similar to how we teach science, we need to meet people where they're at, and one step forward each day. Is the approach. Thanks.
I have a question too. So I love a good building with strong core values. I think it's like when they're simple, easy to understand, it's an entire building to get around it. And that's what creates positivity, and positivity creates, confidence, and confidence creates better outcomes and successes. So all of that is just so good for, social emotional well-being. I know other buildings do the tiered supports, of course, but you just really explained it really well, I think, for middle school level and the MTSS. So I was wondering, from a principal leadership level, in terms of like this, all the anxiety and depression, I know it ebbs and flows. Where do you think Gates stands kind of globally from your role, not as, obviously counselor, individual data stuff, but more as a building leader? Where do you think the climate is for Gates, given all of this work that's been done?
Sure. So in looking at the pair assessment does not diagnose anything in terms of that piece. I wrote it down. So 13% of our students were found to be in tier 3. And tier 3 means that those students had all challenge areas and no strengths listed in terms of things like optimism, perseverance, relationships with peers. And so I don't want to say that means 13% of our student population, but I would say that 13%, surprisingly, is very similar to the cohort the year before. And so we were expecting that number to increase as a result of the pandemic and the isolation of being away. That number has not, has stayed fairly consistent. And I think that could perhaps be attributed to some of the tier 1 interventions that we do to create that sense of belonging and to create that sense of support for all students. But that doesn't mean that our counselors are not very, very busy every single day. And it's been, I think, a different couple of years. And we're very, very, very fortunate to have, strong counselors, strong adjustment counselors, strong school psych, but also a strong staff of 90 people who believe in social and emotional learning and are, capable and equipped to intervene and provide support in those areas.
Great. Yeah.
I guess I have to comment. I think what 4 school members have, we see firsthand the great work that's going on.
No pressure.
Principal meeting on that one.
No, so I know firsthand the great work that's going on, and we've been supported through a lot of the functions that you're performing. So I just want to thank you for that. And we do see it firsthand pretty much on a daily basis. So, and I know it's hard to, I guess, review it in words exactly what we're doing, but when you see it actually happening, you can be thankful that those supports are in place. So I just want to thank that.
Thanks.
Janice and I can speak to the 7th and 8th band concerts.
Oh, yeah.
The energy, the positivity, the skill level it's just amazing. You could actually have tears in your eyes at some of their concerts.
And this is after the last year of having it virtual. I mean, they're
amazing.
doing such a great job, and I want to say one more thing too about that. Because I'm afraid, I was gonna wait in case it wasn't mentioned by the end of the meeting, but I think a lot of people might be asleep. We have a lot of stuff on the agenda, but I was at the Junior Science Club this weekend, and in Oliver Ames High School, where Greg Lassard conducted the band, and he was awarded the down Rachel Hallenbeck Teacher of the Year Award for SAMHSA. So I didn't want that to go unsaid tonight. Because, he was recognized for all the hard work that he does, not just here, but with SAMHSA. So that was a proud moment, sitting in the audience saying, all right, so they were talking about him, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be great. Not even realizing the connection that they were doing it because he was gonna be conducting right then. It's great, but yeah.
It's excellent, and I think when you have excellent teachers, you have excellent,
He's got a tough
results.
job with the middle school.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the only comment I had, so when you talked about the experiences, Celia talked about it earlier, just not just what the kids are doing in the classroom from a learning, kind of learning perspective, but just what they walk away from through the school, whether it's, all 6 schools, but really, having a daughter in the middle school, and usually hear outside of her what's going on. But like hearing her and her friends talk, oh, we did this, we did that, and it's like, what did you learn today? But just those experiences and, what they're taking from the school, it's amazing. And I know we talked about the band, but like the Addams Family production a couple months ago, I mean, the stuff our kids are doing is just amazing. And it's a testament to, the teachers and the staff that are supporting those programs, but also just what they're able to do, what they're able to just run with as individuals. So great to see across all our schools, but especially at Gaines. Thank you, Mr. Meeting, for that presentation.
Thanks so much.
We are going to keep you in the hot seat though.
Yes.
Come up twice in the meeting.
Yes.
The next, the acceptance of gifts, I know we got a gift from the Scituate Community Christmas that you were going to speak to.
Absolutely. I think we have members of the Scituate Community Christmas. Yes. Would you like to come sit up here? All right, so on behalf of Gates Middle School, we wish to thank Scituate Community Christmas for their generous donation in the amount of $4,280.10 to offset the cost of Camp Warrendale for 6th graders in need. This donation helped us to ensure that every single student had the financial means to attend. We're thrilled, having just come back from Warrendale last week, that nearly 100% students participated this year. This partnership between Camp Warrendale and Scituate Public Schools has existed for over 30 years, and the memories that kids make of this last a lifetime. So we are very, very grateful to the Scituate Community Christmas for all of their support over the years, but specifically this year with our return to Warrendale, knowing that, there were many students and families who have faced hard, difficult economic times, and just knowing that Scituate Community Christmas was there was a lifesaver for so many. So thank you very, very much.
I belong to their group, and was so generous, and so we're going to go to all the schools and talk about what we do. We met with mentor learners today, so we're really excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I've had a number of parents who went to Warrendale when they were students. They still talk about it. It's such a great experience that.
You don't want to see someone get like
Exactly.
Make a motion to accept with great appreciation a donation amount of, I think it's $4,280.10. Is that right?
Correct.
From Scituate Community Christmas to Lester J. Gates Middle School to offset the cost of the Camp Warrendale trip for 6th grade students.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Libby.
Thank you very much.
So next on the agenda, we have new business. So the first item there is the flex league. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Dodge.
Okay, so in your packet, you have some details regarding the lease arrangements. Just to give you some background, we have 20 buses that we lease. 19 of those buses come off lease at the end of this school year, June 30th. So we are looking to lease 19 new buses. We have our 2023 buses that are available to us for July 1st. The cost per bus is $99,880, which would be paid over 5 years, $16,000 a year with a residual $30,000 per bus. The annual cost to us is $304,000. As you know, the town provides $250,000 towards that expense in the annual budget as a payment directly or as an offset directly to us. So I would look for a motion and a vote to approve the purchase of a lease of 19 buses within the parameters that are provided for you.
Any questions from the committee for Dr. Lynch? I just had one. Is this, so if we approve this, does this then have to be approved by the Board of Selectmen as well, or?
It does not. They approve it in the process of providing $250,000.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just want to make sure that the city additional. No questions, I'll entertain a motion on the item.
I'll make a motion to approve the 5-year bus lease with Santander Bank as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That's neat. Next on the agenda, we have the South Shore Educational Collaborative Liaison position. Over to Superintendent Burkhead.
Yes, this is when I nominate myself to represent the committee at the South Shore Collaborative meetings and respond back after each meeting to the committee with updates. So I've enjoyed it very much actually this year, meeting with colleagues and being part of that process. So I'd be honored to do it again if the committee would have me.
Our easiest items, we get to put more work on you.
Thank you.
But you know, you did a great job presenting it this year. So.
I enjoyed it, thank you.
Is there a motion on this agenda item?
Motion to appoint Superintendent Bill Burkhead as the Scituate Public Schools Liaison to the South Shore Education Collaborative for the 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So next on the agenda, we have something that's important for every student. The last day of school. I'll turn it back over to Superintendent.
Sure, so it'll be 4 days of no school that kicked this out to 27th. So pending anything, natural disasters and anything of the like, which we anticipate, Monday, June 27th will be the official last day of school for all students in Scituate Public Schools.
That's a half.
This is the
Half
last.
day? Half day.
That's it. I know.
Calling the weather event days down on snow days.
Anything.
Just it's anything.
Yeah, what's anybody? Yeah, already, you know, that big hurricane
Yeah.
is early. Well,
No other questions on the motion on this item?
Make a motion to vote that the last day of school be a half day for students on Monday, June 27th, 2022.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have the superintendent's evaluation. So who the task the school committee charge of is not only hiring the superintendent, but also evaluating them in public. Each school committee member completed their own individual evaluation of Superintendent Burkhead, and then I, as the chair, went through and put a compilation together of that evaluation, which I'm going to share in a moment. All of this, Superintendent Burkhead, I'll provide to you after tonight's meeting, so you have it in your backup. Got this. I can actually see what I'm presenting now. So what I'll do is I'll go through each section of the summative evaluation. I'll stop as I go through the comments for each school committee member to weigh in if they choose to. Each For each of the sections where there were comments, I just literally copied and pasted comments from the school committees, but change any of their voice as part of the evaluation. So let's get right into it. So step one was assessing progress toward the goals. There were 3 items there: the professional practice goal, the student learning goal, and the district improvement goal. Each of the school committee members set that as met on their individual evaluations, so they could easily set that for step one. One thing I did do as I went through each section, each of the rankings that were available, almost all of these were pretty close and pretty even. If there was a majority on one of the items, that was the overall ranking you received, but in the individual evaluations, you'll be able to see the breakdown that each individual school committee member and all of this was based on the feedback that you provided in our last school committee meeting, as well as some of the additional backup you provided regarding the NSIP participation. So all of that, plus everything we've seen through the public meetings, our subcommittee meetings, and just our interactions with yourself and the staff really went into creating this evaluation. So in terms of the 4 standards, for standard 1, which is instructional leadership, you're ranking proficient, management and operations, you're given a rating of exemplary. Then standards 3 and 4 for family and community engagement and professional culture, you're given a ranking of proficient. And then the overall summative performance for the evaluation is given as proficient. And they give us enough rankings. This is a template that we're provided by the state. Having only 4 exemplary is one of those things that's extremely hard to reach based on the guidelines that we're given. Proficient doesn't just mean average, you're doing a good job. And as you'll see through a lot of the comments and some of the rankings, the work you've done has been well appreciated by not only the committee, but we've heard from the community as well as our staff. Proficient is probably the best term for the evaluation that you receive, but it's given by the state. I'm not going to go through every line on every comment for you, but I will, as I said, I'll start with the committee weigh in as I go through each section. Some of their comments were the school district, the community of Scituate are lucky to have you as our superintendent. You've navigated our schools and informed our community on a weekly basis via email, other school committee, community television, not only what we've done with COVID, but also with the progress we've made to become the best district in the world. You understand you cannot do it all and must rely on a team of staff to successfully lead the district through the interview process. You often emphasize or remind us of building a team and bringing the best people on board is a vital factor to your success. The committee pretty unanimous in the fact that you put together an excellent team that's addressed the curriculum needs, improving the culture of our schools, strengthening communication and promoting a culture of excellence, collaboration, and transparency in all aspects of the school life. You've shown a steadfast commitment to collecting and interpreting data in our district and then creating action steps to accelerate curriculum through alignment initiatives, coursework documentation, connection with the framework, content, and skill. And then in order to provide a full view into the district, the superintendent has made his staff available for the community to meet with and ask questions. Assistant Superintendent Driscoll has become a regular participant in our school committee meetings. In each school is also in the progress of providing a state of the school presentation, which has provided greater insight into what we've seen than in past public sessions. So if there any additional feedback the committee wants to so in terms of the performance goals, this came directly out of the presentation that you provided 2 meetings ago. It's a student learning goal, 2 professional practice goals, and the district improvement goal 1. All of those we given a ranking of met. And then in terms of standard 1, so the instructional leadership, so there were 6 different standards that you were or indicators that you were ranked on. There was curriculum, instruction, assessment, evaluation, data-informed decision-making, and student learning. And then there was an overall ranking for that section. So for each of the indicators in this standard, you give a ranking of proficient, including the overall ranking. And just some comments on standard one. So Superintendent Burkhead has a clear focus on curriculum, hiring a very capable assistant whose experience and belief we need to analyze data in order to identify weaknesses relative to overall student and district performance. You use all available sources to make informed decisions. The focus of being the best district in the world does not focus on rankings, and dives deeper into how those rankings are compiled. All students are challenged to take classes that will force them to do more than they thought they could, which we've seen with Mr. Scott earlier tonight, the feedback from this race. You've done a fantastic job gathering, analyzing, and creating action steps around student academic growth. This has enabled the community to see their remediations from pandemic funding loss being utilized in the growth of students throughout the year. Then your leadership, collaboration skills, and guidance has resulted in a robust budget that is transparent and fiscally responsible. You've made strides to increase professional development opportunities for staff and faculty, enhancing the professional skills of our staff. The communication and feedback with the staff on professional development is an innovative step towards enduring PD for staff who is relevant and continually beneficial. Okay,
I will, because I was I was tough on you last year about curriculum in this view. So I did want to comment and say that I'm really proud of the work that led the district towards. I think the curriculum piece is just, it wasn't just about, I think the work that you've done isn't just about one, you didn't go all in on one aspect, like materials or staff, or it was just, it's been, professional development and, tools for staff, tools for students, evaluating the needs, smart investment in tools and pieces like mass insight, things that I love that there's outside the box thinking, bringing in, I guess when from a school committee seat, it's like, okay, we get feedback from the community, especially coming through the pandemic, curriculum, but I think you took that and really made it just leaps and bounds, more depth, more breadth than I even was considering we would have in just 12 months since the last time we looked at this. So I thank you for all of your really tremendous work that's been done by you and all the staff.
Thank you for the feedback.
I know you're not done, but you're still, yeah, but it's a huge leap.
So the next section of the evaluation, standard 2, is management and operations. The indicators there were environment, human resources management and development, scheduling and management information systems, law, ethics and policies, and fiscal systems. So for environment, scheduling and management information systems, law, ethics and policies, you're given a ranking of proficient. And then for human resources management and development and fiscal systems, you're given a ranking of exemplary, and then an overall ranking in this section of proficient. Some of the feedback, the district needed a refresh of its management and operations, most prominently needed a focus on safety, health, emotional, and social needs of our students. This was demonstrated through the establishment of district SEL teams that utilizes paired data to determine specific student focus and training for educators. You've implemented strong and sustainable systems and policies to ensure good stewardship of our town and school resources. Except like to support appropriate, effective, and ethical ways of hiring and carrying out the works of the schools. You've eliminated fees while also continuing to stay within the budget and not requiring steward the town for additional funding. During negotiations, you demonstrated fairness and standing firm for what is best in the district. Your leadership, collaboration, skills, and guidance have resulted in a robust budget that is transparent, fiscally responsible. You've made strides to increase professional development, and then the communication and feedback with the staff and professional development is an innovative step towards improvement. Likewise. You built a strong relationship with the district's legal counsel, not only shied away from confirming the appropriate steps required by the district to respond to requests, provide transparency, and follow state and federal regulations. For the people on the Zoom, there's an update request to turn off the Zoom, so we're making sure that we don't end that section of the meeting. If you see Peter run around again, that's why. And then the last comment was, as we continue to move forward, it will be important to continue to work with staff to provide a healthy work environment. We built a strong relationship, union leadership in the first few years. Continuing this trust will continue to build on the existing trust, keep staff within the district, and benefit students and their growth. Additional comments from the committee?
I just wanted to point out here, because I think as a newer member of the committee, and I think Paula, you and I saw this last week in the forum, that there's been some criticism out there about the focus of PD and shifting away from particular topic areas to SEL. And I just want to point out that this was strategic on your part, that I really appreciate the flexibility and even more flexibility that you're bringing into it this year, that teachers are partners in this. And together you're figuring out, it's not just sort of we do this, this, and this every year because that's the way it's always been done. It's, we're in a pandemic, we need social emotional, so we shift. Now it's shifting to whatever the next need is. And I just wanted to pause for a moment to again, similar to Nicole, just commend you and also your leadership team. I see Heidi is sitting here too, for being adaptable, being flexible, and bringing teachers into a partnership and discussing what it is we need instead of just following a model because of the way we used to do things. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. I think it evolves, and you did a nice job tonight of saying that look at data we have and the people we have and what their needs are as our children, and that's what we do. Thank you.
So moving on to standard 3, family and community engagement. So the 4 indicators here were engagement, sharing responsibility, communication, and family concerns. So your ranking in all 4 was proficient, and then the overall ranking was also proficient. Some of the comments, the Thursday thoughts and COVID updates has been a welcome addition to the SPS community and the level of transparency needed. I consistently addressed family concerns, responding to the communication, utilizing staff and the DLT that would best solve problems or resolve issues that come up. In addition, each teacher and building principal has been challenged to have regular communication with each family. Though this experience varies from teacher to teacher, the engagement has been real and proven to build strong relationships between school, home, and the community. Superintendent Burkhead has made great strides to collaborate with all stakeholders in the community to listen to the concerns and topics important to the community. When it comes to communication strengths, growth, and clarifying facts, there is room for improvement. The opportunities and outcomes for students are increasingly opening doors on an upward trajectory, but the messaging does not completely support this strongly enough. I believe that one of the school committee members believes this is an area that can be improved upon and confidently communicated. Look forward to hearing more directly clear communications. Another member appreciated your approach to family engagement thus far. You described it as being open and transparent, and then see it through the activities that you do, including seaside chats, regular in-person meetings with families, timely responses to questions and emails. And at the same time, it would be important to figure out strategies for both listening to the concerns of our diverse families while also honoring the values and diverse needs of our whole school community. And then the current landscape of social media and real-time responses, a fair amount of false information spreading in Scituate Public Schools, committee and administration. We'll need to work together to identify ways to identify important points and respond to public themes. Trust has been built in the community, and it will be important to keep that building on that as we make more information available. Up there in this section, any additional comments from the committee?
I would just comment that I think that as I was as I was completing this section, I feel as though Bill has taken a little bit more just on the criteria. I feel like the district prior to the last couple of years never really had regular communication, whether to parents, students, or whomever. And I feel like Bill's effort to, obviously with the Thursday thoughts is really the one that comes to mind initially. I know I remember through the interview process, a lot of things I remember the interview process when Evan Sir said he will do a weekly memo or a weekly communication to the entire district. And I said, there's no way you can't do that. And he did, and then he realized that might have been a little bit too much, but now it's twice a month. But the fact that we're getting communication from the superintendent. I know that it's been through all the building principals and other leaders that are contributing to that, but the fact that we have that, I think, for me as a school committee member, as a parent, is something that we've never had, and something that we've really made tremendous progress on. So that's when I was looking through this particular section, I felt as though ratings of at least proficiency were appropriate for sure. We've never had that as a district, as far as I know. And even the teachers now are communicating on a more regular basis. That's obviously a result of home away from home theme and the importance that we put on communication between staff and parents.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, in this, when you read the sort of disaggregated bill, I was a little harder on you in this section, and I think it's partly because you've set the bar very high. You've done such an excellent job. We've been comparing your leadership and your team's leadership to past administrations, and I think my pushing you is I'm not comparing you to the past anymore. Now it's you against you, you versus you, right? And so what's the sort of next growth opportunity for you, and how will you continue to expand what you're doing? And I think the thing I'm looking forward to is, as a parent, is I understand and have seen your strategies for listening, and at some point, you're gonna listen to me and we're still gonna disagree, and you're gonna make a policy where you did listen to me, but my view was not included, and you're gonna have to navigate that as a leader. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how you step up to the plate, and I know you will, how you navigate that. And so I think that was sort of what I was hinting at in my comments to you.
Thank you. I agree with that. Great. I am undefeated against myself.
Yeah, there you go.
Accept that challenge.
And I would add to that too, I mean, as evidenced by our amazing student representative tonight, I mean, she was advocating for that. You know, she's sitting here saying, hey, like, we are working our tails off, we're really accomplishing great things. My, fellow students and I, there's so much. And then they see the negative, kind of negativity, let's just say, that, and it's disheartening as a student. And I know that there's no way that a superintendent or school district can really control every single message every day, every time, but I guess it is more of a challenge for us going forward to say, how can we do better at this thing? Recognizing, as Peter said, we've already made leaps and bounds of improvement, unparalleled communication is actually happening. Yet, we still have this kind of room for more growth there.
100%. Yeah. Thank you for the feedback.
And I think you set yourself up. You always say we want to be the best district in the world. This popped up in everyone's comments multiple times, but it's, you're right. You're going right up against how do we become the best district in the world. And it's almost to the point of nitpicking. Well, how do we do this 1% better, 2% better? There's a lot out there, but it's not necessarily a knock against all the hard work that's going on.
No, I appreciate that because it's without any feedback, how am I going to get better? So this is what you're doing. So I accept the challenge. I think it's a good one, and I think it's true. I agree with it.
And I'm looking at the rankings across the 5 committee members and how it got to the overall ranking. You will see as you go through standard 3 and standard 4, it's all over the place. You do a couple needs improvement here, a couple exemplary in the same item, and it's doing a great job at what we need to do, both yourself and our staff as a whole. But now it's getting to how we can continue to improve. Okay, so the last section of your review, standard 4, which is professional culture. So the indicators there are commitment to high standards, cultural proficiency, communication, continuous learning, shared vision, and managing conflict across, and then obviously the overall ranking. So across all of those indicators in the overall, the average ranking was a proficient. Some comments in this last section. So Superintendent Burkhead is leading the district to foster a safe and respectful learning environment for all. His use of data to inform decision-making and collaborative team effort is strong. You're doing the hard and important work of building a professional culture. I've often evaluation needs improvement in this area of cultural proficiency and continuous learning because I believe that our district still has much work to do. Comments of one committee member, not necessarily me. You've done a great You've been a great leader in starting this work, and I'm hopeful that this will continue in the upcoming academic year. Hiring Mr. Adams and creating a new coordinator position for our MECO program are two very important steps. Looking forward to see how we continue to build this inclusive culture in the future. Your ability to negotiate with the SDA and all of our unions during COVID was impressive, considering it's your first year, especially doing so in such a large union as our SDA. Your honesty is an asset. Again, hiring a DEI director will assist in the developing common culture and provision. Still a lot of work to do. The professional culture and commitment to high standards within the school district cannot be changed overnight. The district has been somewhat in transition with a relatively high turnover in central office over the past 10+ years. You recognize this is a process and has demonstrated commitment by taking part in the NSIP program. I continue to be impressed by the number of hours required in the buy-in by completing such a rigorous curriculum. This continuous learning to create an impression on all staff members as they'll look to improve. Superintendent Burkhead continues to work with the outside resources to improve himself as a professional and individual. Himself and Assistant Superintendent Driscoll also work with Bridgewater State University to build a strong relationship with Scituate and find avenues to benefit our staff in the district's future. And again, the term best district in the world is often spoken publicly by Superintendent Burkhead. He lives by this motto of pushing his staff to find ways to improve the district even when things are going well. A larger piece of the budget has been put into curriculum by adding programs to keep the district moving forward. School committee meetings also shine a light on how the district is taking steps to improve through celebrating student success, state of the school, and the continued focus on curriculum. Any comments from the committee on this last section? That is your evaluation of this year in a nutshell. Obviously, you still have until June 27th of this school year, and then all of next year. We do this again. But I think I just the committee is very impressed by the work that you and the staff have been doing over the course of this year. We're working with you to make ourselves the best district in the world.
Yes, if you would response. So thank you very much. This is very helpful. I can't wait to dive in and get the gist of it, which is very impressive. So thank you. You did a lot of work, time and effort. So I thank you because it's helpful. So we can give feedback to our students or our staff. I was really impressed with seeing all the different names. That's my goal. So it's a team effort. Our great teachers, our cafeteria duty, custodians, bus drivers, secretaries, paraprofessionals. It's a whole team that makes a great district. And I'm really excited about the challenge to get more of that good news out there. Because I think that, and I'm feeling it too, that the message hasn't been clear enough, loud enough, that we are for real, even during a pandemic. And hopefully it was shown in my last presentation that COVID was mentioned once. It was still in the pandemic 2 years. So that's a credit to our students, our families, our staff, and to all of you for the hard work and many hours of time and effort. So I'm blessed to have a great team. I know a lot of you here tonight. Great supportive community, and I look forward to just continue to meet people, learn, and build a strong team that will make the committee and community proud. So you have my commitment on that.
Thank you. If there are no other questions or comments from the committee, is there a motion?
I would say that this form that Desi provides to us is awful. I say that every year, but I want to say that Superintendent, you made it a lot easier because you actually provided evidence and artifacts. I think even in the order that the evaluation is asked of us, so it made, at least for me at least, it made it a lot easier to, instead of remembering everything that you've done over the past year, you gave us a reminder and provided us guidance and evidence that these are things you actually did, as opposed to us trying to remember and recall. And so I appreciate that. But again, the form is still miserable. Hopefully they can change it. I'll let them know.
Seeing no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the evaluation.
Motion to approve the superintendent's evaluation.
All those in favor?
Aye.
As I said, I'll get you the soft copy of 6 evaluations probably tomorrow.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Special chairs. Okay, so next on the agenda is the superintendent's contract. So I believe in February, Superintendent Burkhead reached out to me through the NSIP program. And you heard other superintendents, coming up. I know you had 1 year left in your contract, but beginning to work with their school committees to look at what a future contract could look like. That came to the rest of the committee in multiple executive sessions. And the overall response was, yes, we want to keep this a part of our district, not just for the 1 year you have left in your contract, but also showing a commitment to yourself, the approach you've taken to our schools, and then obviously the staff you've put together to just improve our school as a whole. So working through the committee and also with you, and our legal counsel, we were able to iron out a contract that would take effect on July 1st, 2022. So it'll eliminate the last year of your current contract and run through June 20th of 2028. Some of the changes in the contract, obviously the length was one. We didn't want to just do a 3-year contract. We agreed with you that we want to show a commitment to yourself to continue to move the district forward, which is why we had a 6-year contract. Some changes to the contract. Obviously, there's an impact of salaries. Each year, you receive a confirmed salary increase based on a COLA increase, but that there is also room in the contract of the school committee as a whole if they chose to increase that amount year over year. The starting salary for July 1st, 2022 is $210,000, which is in line, actually towards the middle of how other superintendents are paid among the region. There were some changes to the sick leave. It would allow some buyback at the end of your contract if you did have sick leave time that was remaining. Vacation and personal days all stayed the same. So overall, the majority of the contract continues to look in line with what you had before. The only big change is the amount of time that the contract is, as well as the salary, some buyback that was along through the contract. I do want to say, having worked with you as the chair to get this done, this is a very amicable and quick process. Some back and forth tweaking some things, but overall, completely professional. I really appreciate the work that you had with me, but also with the rest of the committee for some of the executive sessions to get this done. In some districts, this can be something that takes a little bit of time to iron out, could get contentious, but this was a very seamless process on top of all the work you've been doing day over day. So I can personally say that this is a strong commitment to our school district as well as to you. And I look forward to seeing what you can do with the rest of over the length of this contract.
I appreciate, I reciprocate that, working with you as a chair and for the committee. I think we both agreed that, hearing and seeing districts around us go through superintendents, we need to start new initiatives and things. I think things are going really well, and having some stability. In my position, I think creates stability in the district, central office, all the way through principals and teachers, and a commitment to a vision. It times up nicely with a strategic plan that we're going to be working on next year, which is a entire school community celebration of what's going on, but also to help create that vision. So I think it times up nicely. So very committed. I love it here. I want to be here until I retire. So my job is to keep my job. Do it great. So I promise you I will do that.
It's a commitment to our children.
Yeah.
We're all parents, and we appreciate that.
Any additional comments from the committee?
I guess I have a couple of comments. First, obviously, thank you, Superintendent Burkhead, for the last 2 years, and hopefully we can, I think, even more than that 6. But I just want to, I'm sure that there'll be some folks who will wonder why we're doing this, but I did a recent search of superintendent positions that have either recently opened or been filled. the last 2 years in no particular order, Boston Public Schools, Worcester Public Schools, Brookline Public Schools, Hingham Public Schools. Sorry, while I scroll down. Athol, Williston, Leicester, Sutton, Wareham, Sandwich, Southeastern. My point is simply that superintendents turn over very quickly. And when you have a good one, you want to make sure that you keep them. I would say that, as Superintendent Burkhead said, the new superintendent, you bring in, I guess, new challenges, go through process. And we didn't want to risk losing Superintendent Burkhead, as there are potential opportunities nearly every month. In addition to those I named, just to more Minuteman Regional, Barnstable, Winchendon, Hamilton, Wenham, Stoughton, Greenfield, North Attleboro, Neshoba, Air Shirley, Uxbridge, Amesbury. Those are all within the past 14 months. So it's in my opinion, then we have someone like Superintendent Burkhead, that we do all we can to keep him here. So thank you.
Yeah, and I would just say, in the spirit of what we've been talking about, which is celebration, I think the other piece of this is, rather than think about risking a loss, I think we're also celebrating a huge win for the district and trying to demonstrate, just as Superintendent Burkhead keeps saying how committed he is to our kids, we also want to show a commitment to you, Bill, and celebrate all the great work that you and your team and the teachers are doing together. So really, thank you.
Thank you.
And I think Ms. Brennan mentioned during the review process, to hit you hard on curriculum last year, made strong strides on the hiring of Ms. Driscoll, but also, just the presentations and the views that we've seen in curriculum and the changes that you've made, your staff have made over the course of the year. Dropped your gauntlet with a couple other things in this review.
I got this treacherous.
I said it's gonna be hard, no response.
I said we.
I'm totally kidding.
But you take the, probably for lack of a better word, criticism, you run with it, you find ways to improve, and that's shown strongly in the first years of your time here in Scituate. And as we started going through the evaluation and that with this contract extension, obviously it was, the evaluation was strong. The commitment to extend the contract was also strong, that's why we're able to do both tonight.
Great. Thank you very much.
So if there's no other questions or comments on the motion to approve the superintendent's contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the superintendent's contract effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2028.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Madam Burkhead. So the last item in new business is a job description for the Director of Supplemental Services. I'll turn it over to Ms. Driscoll.
Thank you for having me. I know you have the information in your backup pack, but tonight we are asking you to consider and vote on a one-year grant-funded position for Director of Supplemental Services. This person would serve as a support for district-wide programming, for calibration practices across elementary schools, and for district-wide program documentation and compliance. We're looking for someone with experience in curriculum and building administration for this position.
Any questions from the committee regarding the job description that we received? Yep.
This is, just to clarify, this is a one-year grant-funded position. I want to emphasize that.
So at the end of the day, there's no impact to the budget either because.
Correct. So we'll come from a grant outside the budget and we'll include at the end of next year with the next end.
I like the calibration piece, and so this person will have interactions at all 6 schools.
Yes. Primarily elementary, but yes.
Any questions from the committee? I will entertain a motion on this item.
Motion to approve the new job description Director of Supplemental Services. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then the next item on the agenda under old business is an update on the school calendar for the 2022-2023 school year.
So you'll see in your backup packet, we have our second draft, which hopefully will be our final draft of the school calendar. This included the professional development days. And it also indicates that the kindergarten start date is September 10th. K start date is the same the following Monday as usual. So the year is the same. This just indicates which professional development days we'll have throughout the year for all buildings.
Any questions from the committee on this item?
Those are the highlighted for me, extra days.
When and if we approve this, when will this then go on the website, because parents are gonna wanna see it, so.
We're dying to put it
Great.
together. Yes.
Perfect,
We'll also be able to start our planning for FY '20.
perfect.
So all PDs will be on half days. Is that correct?
Well, there will be, there's always additional opportunities throughout the year.
Okay.
That's what we use our early release days.
Yeah.
The January PD set is a little bit different from past practices. Can you explain that, those January ones, just so?
Sure, absolutely. So if you look at those days, some of those half days are actually high school finals or interns were indicating those. So parents are aware and people are aware that those are in fact half days. And there is the Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, is a full district half day. Like that, I'm not even.
Wow, I'm impressed.
We looked at this for going on. So that is a full district early release. We have two opportunities for those, one in June and one in January. The regular early release days will be for elementary and middle. And high school has collaboration time, as you know, every Wednesday.
In June, June's the same.
And if
So
you
what,
look-
June 14th, 15th, 16th?
Any other questions, Mr. If not, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Motion to approve the 2022-2023 revised school calendar as presented.
All those in favor?
Thank you very
Look forward to
much.
seeing it on the school website. And then Superintendent Burkhead, is that something that comes on this week's Thursday talk? So that
Before I forget.
just to make sure it's broadcast out.
Yeah. We're gonna want to.
So next on the agenda, we have a leadership report from Dr. Dutch.
Thanks for having me back here in the hot seat. So I wanted to provide you with an update on where we are with the Hatherley pushing MSBA process. So the next step in this process is the selection of the owner's project manager, which is what the acronym OPM stands for. I'm gonna just give you an overview of the different steps within this process, and then I'll explain each of those steps and include some timelines for you. In this process, the first step is to develop a request for services. Next, you would have to get approval of that request for services from the MSBA. Once they've provided that approval, you would post the RFS, the request for services, so that you would get responses from different contractors. After we have all of the responses, by the deadline, you would evaluate those responses, narrow it down to finalists. Those finalists would be interviewed. Once you have rank ordered those finalists, you would negotiate with the top choice. So what's unique about this process is when you're putting out the request for services, they're not submitting a price. So the evaluation is absent any knowledge of what the cost will be. It's not part of the decision-making process until we begin negotiations. Once we've negotiated with the top choice, we send our information to the MSBA to get their approval of that OPM. So I'll walk you through each of these steps. First, within the request for services, which is being developed now, we provide background information about the school, about the town, and then we provide details from the previous feasibility study. Details that are included in that request for services are letting the OPM know what the project objectives are. Some examples of that would be, the configuration of the school, or of schools if we were looking at restructuring all of the elementary schools, even some considerations as to whether, we want to put an auditorium, a swimming pool. We want it to be a green building, solar panels, LEED certifications, those sorts of things. Then a timeline for the entire process. So from the time the OPM is hired until we put a shovel in the ground and get to completion. We also put the minimum requirements, so the qualifications of the OPM, and then we let them know what the criteria are that we will be evaluating them based upon, so they can target appropriately within their response of our request for services. Any questions about this part of the process? Okay. So MSBA approval, we once I finish with the request for services, which is 90% done, it gets sent to the MSBA. They review it, make sure that it has all of the components that it needs to have, and that they are sufficient. And then they would let us know that we could move forward. So this RFS is due to the MSBA by May 12th, so that's Thursday. They need that much time. They need about 2 weeks to review it, have their legal department review it, and then give us the okay to move forward. Once they allow us to move forward, we have to advertise it. We're required to advertise it in at least 2 places, one of which is required to be the Central Register, which is a website or a document that is run by the Secretary of the Commonwealth, Mr. Galvin's office. And then we would also put it in a local newspaper, either the Patriot Ledger or the Scituate Narrative. The target date, the next date that we have to get that to the Central Register by is May 26th to allow it to be in the Central Register for June 1st. That'll allow us to continue to meet the timelines that the MSBA requires. Basically doing a backwards design, identifying when will they look at our recommendation after we do all the work, and then work backwards to make sure we can meet those timelines. Evaluation. So we currently have a building subcommittee. We'll be inviting some members of that subcommittee, to become part of the evaluation subcommittee to evaluate the respondents. So we'll put the criteria for evaluation in the request for services. We'll then turn that into a template that we'll be able to score as we go through each of the responses. And then once we've completed that, we would identify the top 3 and then interview those 3. Again, just like you would interviewing any candidate for a job, you'd use the same questions for everybody and you'd have a scoring process. Based on that, we would identify the top finalists, then begin to negotiate with the top finalists for a price. And we will start with the price just for moving us to the designer selection and the feasibility study. At that point, their work can be done, or we could continue them if we're happy with their work. But we wouldn't negotiate that price with them until we were finished with the feasibility study and we knew what the design of the building school would look like. So once the terms are agreed upon with the OPM that we have identified as our first choice, we forward that into information to the MSBA. That is due to them by July 6th, at which time it would go to for their review and their approval. They would do that approval at their August 1st meeting. If we miss any of these deadlines, we would move to their September 12th meeting. So we would like to try and get this done by their August 1st meeting, which for us means July 6th. That's our deadline. If they don't approve our selection, we go to choice number 2 and we negotiate with them. And then choice 3, negotiate with them. So that's kind of the process. Once the OPM is on board, they will walk us through the process of choosing an architect, a designer who would help us with the feasibility study. Once the feasibility study is done, they would do a preliminary schematic design, which would go to the MSBA. That's when we would begin to go to the public, where obviously we go to the public with the feasibility study, we get lots of input. But where the real challenge will be, obviously, is asking for the money. And that'll start once we have the feasibility study done and we have a design in place, and we know what the cost will be. We have a range, obviously, until we actually design the facility, we don't know what the actual cost will be. So that's kind of this process. I hope that gives you a kind of in-depth look at this phase. Questions?
Questions?
I just have 2 questions. So you mentioned that June 6th.
July 6th.
July 6th. But prior to that, we have the May 26th deadline. So is MSBA aware of that particular deadline, or and they work with that?
They do. That's why they gave us those times. So they gave us the May 12th date to get it to them so that we could have it get it to the Central Register by May 26th. The Central Register tells us to get it on for June 1st. You got to have it to us by May 26th.
Okay.
From June 1st, there are then some time restraints as well. So then the request for services will be available in the Central Register or through my office beginning June 1st. They will have to have all of the responses in by June 15th. So there's a 2-week window for them to put together their response for our request for services. After June 15th, I can tell you now the dates are set. June 16th is the day that we are going to review the requests and do the evaluations. June 23rd is the day we'll be doing the interviews, and then we will be negotiating between June 24th and July 1st. So it's a pretty tight timeline. Dates are set, we have targets. I feel like as long as we have the targets and we know what they are, we can meet those. And we will put those targets in the RFS so that someone who's responding knows they need to be available for an interview on June 23rd. That's part of their commitment if they're applying to be a candidate.
You said that you negotiate for the first piece, and then if you like that, what they do, you negotiate for the second. So if you don't, you go back to the drawing board with a new.
You go back to
RFS?
you do go back and have another RFS for a new OPM.
And it would be a whole new RFS, because it wouldn't include that first piece, so would you want
Correct.
somebody,
It would just be an RFS for the construction piece, for the designer, for the actual schematic design, and actually just the construction.
even if we didn't like what the first contract did?
Well, the LPM really isn't going to do, they're kind of guiding us through the process of selecting the designer. And they'll give us some guidance of if part of our interest is sustainability or being green. They're going to help us with that along with the architect. It's really the architect who's gonna get the ball rolling on what that building looks like. The OPM in this first phase is probably a little less important from a strategic perspective than they are when the actual construction's happening. Because they're really our clerk of the works, so to speak, when construction's happening.
Thank you.
Right? I will say in talking to other people, it's pretty rare that you don't continue with your OPM, because it's a lot of work to then go back out to bid. So they've got to really be pretty egregious in their lack of ability to provide you the services that they said they would.
Question, configuration. Janice can probably speak to this too a little bit. So just the history on looking into what configurations should be. Scituate seems to be different than some towns that have changed configuration in terms of we're not going from 3 to 2 buildings. You couldn't do just one pre-K to 2, a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 high school. We would have to do 2, because we have Jenkins and Wampatuck. So you would have to go 2, 1, 1, 1. Because flipping it is a good idea.
Well, I think, that would come about through the feasibility study. I think there's all kinds of options for feasibility with 5 buildings, which is what you'll ultimately have. I mean, you could have, Wampatuck could be a pre-K up to grade 2. And then you could have a 3 through 5, 2, 3 through 5, something like that. I mean, I don't know. There are people smarter than me with that kind of background who could think about different practical configurations. But I don't know that there's any interest in that in Scituate. I mean, when you look at where we are now, there's a strong desire, it seems, to continue to have neighborhood schools. While you move from 4 to 3, it's going to change the neighborhood school structure. It doesn't do away with it. So I don't know how that feasibility, there was no indication in the previous feasibility study that people wanted to have grade level buildings that were exclusively one grade level, only one per grade, grade level configuration. I didn't see that in that feasibility study.
I think that was.
It was kind of was like 50-50.
Yeah. But then we made an ultimate recommendation.
Yeah.
That's something we need to focus on.
I mean, there's benefits to neighborhood schools, there's benefits to
Sure,
the way
yeah.
I mean, it's,
Found it to be pretty 50-50.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, change is very difficult. Try and change the way you do things will be a challenge in and of itself. But if that's what the consensus is, then that's what you're going to do. But ultimately, that'll result from the feasibility study. The key is making sure that you have a lot of input from as many different people as possible.
And that would be sort of also guided by the architect.
That's guided by the architect. Yes. So they're really integral to the process.
And the green school piece, I feel like that's come up a decent amount with community members and parents. So are there certain, as opposed to, home environment, a school environment. So is there a sort of a check boxes of like what a green school looks like?
There are.
Elements that you would want in a green school. And
There are.
also cost differentials. Like, can we see a whole,
You will see that. And that's part of what the RFS is going to identify based on the previous feasibility study is, that there's a desire for, green school. So you're gonna want an OPM and ultimately a designer who has expertise with that. There are points, you remember I mentioned that we're getting 43% reimbursement. Well, that could go up because there are points for building an environmentally sustainable school. So each component, whether it's solar power, wind, whatever you're using for energy source, your window types, how it's structured, there are points for those things. So you I'm looking at the state's criteria for giving you increments in the funding, tells you what they're looking for, but you still want an OPM and a designer who understand that, if that's what you want the school to be.
I've just had a couple quick questions for you. So that first, the RFS, you said it was due by the 12th, and then get back to us in 2 weeks. What does it look like if they come back and say, hey, can you give us additional information, or this section needs to be redone?
We're gonna be on the September 12th agenda.
Yeah.
There's no, if we don't have the request for services in the central register by June 1st. There's no way we can get to them by July 6th.
So if there's a couple of things we need to fix that may 26 days out, we're gonna be able to do it within that 2 week window. It would be more, we get pushed out of them.
Yeah, I think, the other thing to keep in mind is, and I look at things this way, I don't know if this is the case, but my assumption is that they ask for that 2 weeks as a maximum, and there's good likelihood that they'll get information or feedback to us sooner than that, which would give us the opportunity to make some changes to it, get it back to them. Whether we get it back then in time, it was all dependent on how quickly things move.
Right.
It's not the end of the world if we're on the September 12th agenda. It's just moving everything down the line.
And I'm not assuming that will happen. Obviously, I was just curious how the timeline is impacted by.
Yeah, this timeline's pretty tight.
And then in terms of, are there any reasons why an OPM might not be approved by the MSBA? There's things we need to look at as we're going through that.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Not sure why, I think it would be if we did something wrong in the evaluation process or the interview process, more so than anything else.
So if we felt strongly about a specific OPM and the amount of criteria that the MSBA would expect, they would turn around and say, no, we don't think that OPM, but would be more technical as opposed to what we're working on.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last question I have for you, so assuming the timeline that you laid out is followed, at what point does this get to count for? We're talking 2024, 2023?
We're talking about from now about 18 months. Feasibility study and schematic design will take, so you're looking at fall town meeting 20.
Something for us to consider as we obviously push this project forward and getting working with the town to get that kind of support. Thank you, Dr. Dutch, for that update tonight.
All right, you're welcome. Stop sharing.
So this is the only opportunity for public comment, so we will allow public comment for people in the room as well as people through the Zoom meeting. If people want to raise their hand on the Zoom, I can ask them to unmute. If people in the room just want to raise their hand, I can come up. Seeing none, I'll move on to the agenda. So next on the agenda is the approval of minutes. So in our backup, we have the April 11th school committee meeting, April 11th annual town meeting minutes, and then our minutes from April 25th. Well, there's a look for motion on each of these items separately.
Motion to approve the April 11th, 2022 regular scheduled meeting minutes as written. Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Motion to approve the April 11th, 2022 annual town meeting minutes as written. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then
Motion to approve the April 25th, 2022 meeting minutes as written.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. There's one abstention, just because Nicole was not at that meeting. So there are no warrants to be read as part of this meeting. Also no additional correspondence to the committee. Is there any additional business that members of the committee wanted to? I'm sorry, there was a mass bullet in our backup correspondence. Was there any other business that members of the committee wanted to bring up tonight? So we do have a meeting that was posted today for May 11th at 5 p.m. That meeting will be a Zoom only. It will just be an executive session regarding contract negotiations, so it will not be a public portion of that meeting. Our next public meeting is May 23rd at 6 p.m. and that will continue to be a hybrid meeting. So there's nothing else from the committee. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:40 p.m.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.